Hello, Friday. How are you? I'm doing great. Third cup of the day. I had to have another cup of coffee because my small town just opened a brand new Safeway a couple of blocks from the house. It's a big box grocery store. If you download their app, I know, another app on my phone. My phone cannot handle not one more app. Between all the apps that are required for everything in life, I really miss those unplugged off the grid days in Disneyland. Those were amazing. But I downloaded an app today for the Safeway, the big box grocery store down the street that just opened because I wanted to get the sales. They sent a flyer in the mail with a huge discount on ground beef, some free pineapple. Of course, I'm gonna go in. They opened yesterday. Yesterday evening, Lily and I ran in for just one thing and ended up spending too much, but you know, whatever. I needed it for dinner. It's the closest grocery store. I was gonna give it a try. I used to work at Safeway. I worked at Safeway for about almost 10 years. It's nice, it's beautiful. It doesn't really make sense for my family of 5 to shop non-frugally. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. We have a smaller store, it's called Grocery Outlet. And what it is they do carry basic items, basic products. But usually when a manufacturer has too much, that they've made too much, they've sold to the big box stores, and whatever is left that wasn't sold to the big box stores, they sell at a discount to Grocery Outlet. So when you go into Grocery Outlet, you're bargain hunting. You usually find, like on a random day, you'll find, 5 cans of string beans for $1. They're not going to expire. It might not be a brand name you're familiar with, but it's not gonna, they're not selling old stuff. It's off, like the label was only printed in 2 colors, or it was just a surplus of what didn't sell to the big box store. So that's where I usually shop. And I do really, really good on our food budget most of the time. So I ran into Safeway this morning because they had an amazing deal on ground beef. I downloaded the app. I put all my personal information in the app, and all of a sudden I started receiving spam text messages and sales calls. Okay. Knew it was gonna happen. It's the same reason why I don't give my phone number when we go to a restaurant and they're asking how many people in your party. Okay, can we have your phone number? We'll text you when your table's ready. What? I'm like right here. I'm gonna stand right here and I'm gonna stare at you until my table's ready. You don't need to text me that my table's ready. But they insist because as a corporate restaurant, they like to sell your phone number as a live active number, which is more valuable, to all the salespeople. See, I justified my 3rd cup of coffee today. I know you don't care. You're not counting my cups. I shouldn't be counting my cups either because it is just fuel for crocheting. Remember this pattern book I got? Patchwork crochet. It was Annie's Crochet. It was an advertisement on Facebook, I believe. Yeah, it was Facebook. I had to have it. I have to have this sweater in my life. So timeline's mixed up. I went to a flea market and found this Ella Ray. Now, see, that color is that's not the color. We've got a foggy overcast day. That's not the color. You know what? I'm gonna try to take some really nice pictures and I'll attach it to the end of this video to try and really capture the color. It's a deep, deep, deep purple. It's blue hued purple. Is there a name for that? Come on, Hallmark, give me a name for a blue hued purple. A deep, deep navy midnight blue purple. I guess that's a little closer. No, I'm gonna take some good pictures. Don't judge me on this one. Bought plenty of this wool at a steal. It smelled amazing. The booth was definitely a yarn enthusiast. I brought it home. I left it in the trunk of the car in the tote. It was hot. It was summertime. It was wool. I left it in the trunk of the car for almost a week, just waiting to make sure that I'm not introducing anything critter-wise into my yarn cellar. That would be disastrous, wouldn't it? Okay, so then I got on Etsy. eBay. I got on eBay and I found some more LRA Classic in this, see, that's not the real color either. It's more of a periwinkle. It's a pastel blue hued purple. This is ridiculous. It's still pretty together. Whatever color I'm seeing, that you're seeing, that we're seeing together, it's pretty. It goes together too. It does. Trust me, it does. So I got my yarns. I got my pattern. I procrastinate for months, right? I don't know what it was. I could envision this coming together, and I'm excited about it, and I wanted to start it right away. I don't know why I paused. I think I was waiting for the cooler weather. I usually feel overwhelmed around Christmas time with just life and everything, right? Christmas, that's what Christmas time is about. It's the hustle and bustle of the holidays. That's when I like to start a slow crocheted project. Something that I'm just creeping along on. There's no rush, nobody's doing anything. It's just slow make. That's my time of year to take on a slow make. And I think in the back of my mind, I was anticipating this project. So, also, I decided that I was gonna read the pattern before I started working up the pattern. I am into it row 4. She brought a stick in the house, and now she's playing soccer with it on the floor. Okay. So I started reading the pattern. I overwhelmed myself with just reading the pattern, because when you're reading it, things don't really sink in and make sense. The concept of how to connect, it's a connect as you go pattern. So you start with this first row. You make all these bottom scallops, and then you start connecting them by joining in the second row. I'm glad there's a lot of pictures. There's a diagram that I'm still kind of iffy about. There's a diagram. Making notes as I go in case I ever make this again. Okay. And then I got the first row figured out, put them in the wrong spot, took them out, put them in the right spot. And so I have these little bundles that I made that this is enough to make a complete scallop. I had to rip it out. So now I have I'll grab it the next time I need to make a complete scallop. I have a couple of those. Then I get down to, it's a confusing part. So then I figured out the flow of the first row, starting in the second row. Row 2. You start with a right edge half shell, which makes sense because you're building up the front, and it would just be a half to kind of make the space between the scallops. Okay, I figured out I did the half, and then I'm doing in the fill-ins. Okay, good. Then I get to row 3. Row 3, first shell. Begin in the marked space of the right edge half shell. Okay, find the right edge half shell. Got it. Work the same as shell of row 2. Okay, so then I've got to reference back to the shell of row 2. So turn pages, turn pages, turn pages. There is no shell of row 2. There's no shell of row 2. It says row 2 and then it talks about a half shell. So I go all the way back and then I find first shell, next shell. So work the same as row 2. So the next shell? No, go back to first shell. Okay. Okay, work the same as next shell, row 2. So then this actually says next shell. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll work that then. Because it never actually says row 2 next shell. But the only thing labeled next shell is under first shell. Okay, I'm working it. It looks like it makes sense. I'm checking back to the pictures. Okay, I got that. And then it says next shell. And I'm like, what? Next shell? We got 2 labeled next shell? I'm ahead of myself. Trust the process. They told me to work the first shell of row 2. Just do that. Don't get ahead of myself. So then it says next shell. Make 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, depending on your size. Okay, I can do that. I'm making the 7. The 7's my number. It says next shell, make, and then how many, and then it says work same as next shell of row 2. Again, next shell of row 2, where are you? Okay, trust the process, keep going. Following the picture and seeing how they're aligned where you have the 2 shells and then you're making in the middle of them. So I'm just following the process. And I'm noticing that actually, when I look at the pattern, it's only broken down into 2 different steps. It's a full shell step worked, and then the half. So in using the diagram in the back, I know I can work, it's either a full or a half, depending on where if I'm at an end, I'm making a half. Okay. Row 4. I'm on row 4. It says repeat row 2. Do not remove markers from the last 2 rows. Well, I was removing markers all over the place. It's okay, it's okay. But it keeps referencing back. So when I got to the row, it would reference back 2 rows back or 1 row back, or I've made progress. Would you like to see the progress that I have made? Okay, let's take a look. Here is the whole bottom part of the sweater. It needs to be blocked. I don't know, I'm gonna have to look into ways to block wool. Okay, so this one edge, I worked row 1. They are connected by row 2. So I made all of these 7, all of these complete scallops, which was not even considered row 1, right? Row 1, worked the shells. There are 17 rounds to the shells. So I worked the 7 shells that I needed. Then row 2, I messed up big time because I needed to add this little half shell. So I squeezed that in there, and then I put it like on the wrong, I don't know how I did it. I did it wrong. So then the second row of shells are worked by connecting these and doing this long single crochet, working all the way down these sides, decreasing and working all the way up that side. And then it's all worked in this decreased shell pattern. Fantastic, no problem. Move to the next one. Connecting these 2 shells by long single crocheting all the way across and then following the pattern, decreasing up to that one. No problem. Row 3. So I've got the whole bottom. There's one edge, and then it folds over this way. There's the bottom part of my cardigan. That's a crappy view. Let me still put a picture at the end. Okay, I'll lay it out and take a picture. So So then row 3, okay, row 3, and it starts with building up the half shell. And then it's doing the same thing, just starting at one point of it and working all the way along in the decrease. So then I have this point. Now it tells you to make these points all the way across. So then the next one where I'm at, I'll start over here and work single crochets all the way down the edge, decrease in the middle, and then work up to this edge, adding a scallop. So then that gives me a point here. Look at that. I'll have a scallop here. Then from this point to this point will be a fill-in shell. And that's row 5. So just for fun, because I needed to see some progress, and I was making all these scallopy decreases, and I was like, I want to do something different. So last night, I skipped ahead and I did row 5, which is these fill-ins. Now in their pattern, they're using steel blue and tan? Steel blue and tan. So this is my steel blue, this is my tan. They use steel blue to fill in this, which, man, that would be beautiful. But I have more of my secondary color than I do of my primary color. And so I was thinking I was gonna make quarter sleeves to kind of save on the darker color. Just, I don't know. I always second guess my yardage, right? I've got no need to. I hit gauge. I did a gauge. So it said to use a 5mm hook, but they're using a 3 lightweight Lion Brand Kobu. I'm using, technically it's a 4-weight and it's a wool, so it doesn't drape and play the same. So I worked a gauge. I used the 5mm recommended hook. It came up to 7 inches, which was a ½ an inch too big. When I worked it up with my 4.5 clover, I hit gauge at 3.5 inches. So 6.5 inches. 6.5 inches. Man, that was a crazy gauge. So I don't need to be worried about it. I could very well make with my dark, I do have enough yarn. So I've got my scallops. I've got my light and the dark, exactly how they have their light and the dark. And then they use dark here and then dark building up the body. That's pretty much the only change I've made. And then the dark will be filling up the body. It'll be fine. I think I like that a little better. Add a little contrast before I start working that. I know I should just take it step by step how I've been taking it so that I don't overwhelm myself. But I decided to go ahead and look forward. So after I make all these scallops, and then I make all the fill-in scallops, the next part says yoke. The yoke. Wait a minute. That's not how the diagram says. So the diagram, this is the back panel. Here's the front left or right, and here's the front left or right. Not sure how we're flipping this around. And then this gap in the middle is the armpit holes. Okay, so then I imagine that we're connecting these shoulder seams a bit, right? Where's the yoke? I don't know. So then I'm looking and I found another diagram. All right, so we got the front right and the front left. And then there's that bottom part that I'm working on. And then I got the sleeves. This is the only other diagram. On these diagrams, there's not the actual word yoke anywhere. I want this sweater in my life. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not a toothy wool at all. It is buttery soft. This is really good stuff. I am very pleased to have gotten this combination together and work this this pattern. I mean, come on. Look how beautiful. Where's the yoke? When somebody says yoke, I think of the top part of a garment, the neck, shoulder, and, front and back. Commonly referred to in a raglan or, a garment that's worked in one piece at the top. Okay. With right side facing, single crochet join, steel blue, in top point of half shell. Okay, keywords, half shell, and then I know I'm using the blue, but that's nothing new. Most of these shells, scallop shells, all start with steel blue, and it's usually 2 rows of each color working it up. So in the half point, well, there's my only halves are running down the sides, and I'm left-handed. So when it tells me right side facing, I make right side facing. But when it tells me like on the right side or the left side, I'm working opposite of that. Single crochet join at the top point of a half shell. So I think I'm just gonna grab the half shell, 29 single crochet across the top of a fill-in shell. Another keyword, fill-in shell. Okay, working 29 across there. Single crochet in shell point. Okay. And then do that. Oh, there's my 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I guess, all right, doing it all the way across. Oh, okay, so thank you. Thank you for talking and walking it out with me. I think when I try a new pattern or a challenging image or something like that, I tend to overthink. And that's not what any of this is about. I don't need a stressful distraction from the stressful time of year, right? I need something tangible that I can put my hands on and actually manipulate it to be what my mind's eye is creating. So, need crochet this time of year. We need something to unwind at the end of the long day. And as soon as I can put this on and unwind with this at the end of the day, it's going to be delightful. I'm excited. What do you think? Have you ever tried this technique, patchwork crochet? The bag is pretty. And then the vest, those little, I think they're called martyred corner. See them a lot with like the log cabin quilts and that sort of thing. Very cute, very cute. Adorable. A lot of fun patterns, but this, the cardigan, the captivating cardigan, it did, named perfectly, it captivated me. Another thing that really intimidates me, and I think that it's really popping to the front of my mind, is I don't like ends. When I'm making a blanket, mostly blankets, garments not so much, because garments really do try to limit the ends to weave in. That's not, I don't mind weaving in ends. It's just every time I cut off and start anew, I'm thinking, oh man, that's the weakest link. If it was ever going to come unraveled, it would be at that point, you know? I see blankets at thrift stores and they're just ripped straight down a seam where one tail came unwove, or maybe it got cut in a certain part, which is a different unlocked fear. But ends are my weakest point, right? It's crochet, it's not knitting. So I do a tie join, and then I stitch over my ends as I go. That's how I'm taking care of the ends. I know in knitting, they always, what? Don't tie knots. We don't do knots. I'm primarily a crocheter, and yes, I tie knots because it takes me a long time, and I am not getting this another item. I'm not ever giving this away, but I don't want an item returned that my knots came undone or it unraveled. Can you make me another one? No. Yes, I'll fix it. So that is that. That is where I am. A little Friday catch up. I've had a wonderful week. It seems really short. I only worked 2 days this week. Feels weird. And then the overnights, but those don't count. Those don't count because the world is sleeping and I'm crocheting. Well, that's it. I will see you on Monday for a little inspiration on Monday and get your week started with some inspiring, fun holiday makes that I've stumbled across in vintage magazines. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Take care. Bye.